Back. Hello people, I'm back. Thank you for tuning in to Trump, Story Truth, or Trump's Art of War, where we study writing, study how to make a story using Trump's world as a backdrop, which actually has become more our world now that Trump has left for a while, but he'll be back. We use Trump's world for story because Trump's world now is our world, and it is a really emotional one. I'm using the 33 strategies of war, self-directed warfare, declare war on your enemies, the polarity strategy. You should declare war on your enemies. You shouldn't take them for granted. You should go all out. In the Bible, the Israelites attacked Ai after defeating the much larger Jericho. They thought, well, Ai is a just small town. We'll just go take it with a few people, and they got trounced. For one reason, because somebody had sinned and they needed to take care of that. That's where they get the phrase "sin in the camp." And you can't take your enemy halfway. You have to declare war against them and go all the way. Just as if you were fighting a huge enemy, you fight your small enemies. So Donald Trump had a very targeted and effective way to identify his enemies. I think I already push through here. Donald Trump, as the woken world knows him, does not exist. He never existed. He does look good to the world because he is exactly what they have ordered. The one that the press has created. If the real Donald Trump was as inept, greedy, weak, and treasonous as the woke public had been dining on, they would accept him as one of their own. The First Lady would be treated like a queen instead of being treated like crap, and praised for her success in business and as an American citizen. We are lucky that Donald Trump is a man of principle rather than a politician who could be happy selling his country, its unique constitution, and its people down the Potomac. The woken world of the elite new journalists, out-of-touch Hollywood actors, crooked politicians, and shut-in billionaires buy people's souls one day and then turn around and sell them the next. They can wear the Democrat, Republican, Independent, or any other liberal or conservative hat they feel that suits their purposes at the moment. I've already covered a lot of that. Trump's various accusers have amassed, since entering into the political arena, dirt poor. You would puzzle over their wealth for days trying to solve the conundrum of how these public servants, like Biden, Nancy Pelosi, the Clintons, could possibly have become the envy of lottery jackpot winners, millionaires, and others of our nation relatively impoverished. I think I've covered that, otherwise I would get into it. I'm talking about how the hypocrisy of those who accuse Donald Trump of making money for the presidency while he donated his salary to charity and worked for free, and while they started out broke and worked their way up to now that they're like hundreds of millions of dollars, and he lost money. Still, they accused him of everything that they do. That's what they do. I guess they're experts at collusion, so they accuse their enemies of collusion. That way they'll know what to say because they're such experts at it. I'll give you some real news that'll knock the liars to the floors of their mansions. Donald J. Trump is a genius at the art of anything to do with war. The self Trump portrayed to the world when he stepped into the trenches of American politics was only a reflection of the fictional character the woke mob so defensively and wickedly created. In my humble opinion, the reason Donald Trump corrected the swamp rat liars about who they claimed to be, but didn't try to correct them on their faulty evaluation of who he was, had to be with his mission. Those who failed to make notice of 45 on the political scene with a plan did not listen to a word he said. Oh, by the way, I would appreciate it if you do like this, if you like it and share it. It helps to get the word out. Swamp politicians know only the ways of the swamp. In the political world, you learn fast to predict someone's actions using 100 different methods. The last one is by listening to what they say. So it is not surprising that when an honest man arrives on the scene, they have no idea of who he is or why he had joined their little game. Donald Trump could not have run for president for the good of the American people. Now, who would do a stupid thing like that? Power is a concentration of potent force that refuses to relent or give. It only pushes and takes the grasp tightly with no release. Strategies are things studied and practiced and studied and practiced. For many years, the plot twists, reverses, and takes the reader into a swirling mix of adventure. Deceptions twist and bend the string of incidents that bend, twist, and try to hide them in plain sight. Trickery feints and deceives you until you run ahead blind, but the thrill exuberates. Mistruth are the arts that mix truth with the passion of precise detail significant to the plan. You have to learn sleight of hand. It's an art some people can work at for years and never master. Other people get it right off. I usually don't like to be deceptive. I'm an honest man, but the job's the job, you know. Sometimes I feel guilty, but I don't do it. Then who will? It's war, intense, full of deception. Of course, you can't just be straight out and forward with it. War is hell, but it's a necessary thing. We constantly have to protect ourselves, and we hate to admit it, but we've each got our own needs, don't we? We're sinners deep inside. That's what we are. So we have to play the hand we see in front of us. If we work hard, we get what we want. We get lazy, and it's the same difference. We die broke. You can take it with you now, can't you? What about souls? What about souls? You can take them with you. You save a soul by introducing someone to Christ, and you save not just a person, but a whole universe. For each person experiences the universe as if it were theirs alone, as if God created it for you alone, one individual. It is true that Jesus would have died if only to save one soul, to save just me or just you or anyone else. What I'm doing here is a lot of exposition, and I'll go back through it and try to make it pertain more to the story. It's just a first draft, and I really didn't bother to do anything to it, but just copy it out of my book. Say I do dedicate my life's work to God, all of myself to God, all of my heart and soul devoted to Him. His work? I owe Him my life, so why not go after other lives to save them? Think of all those children out there depending on my next decision to save them from harm. Their children, their grandchildren. No, they're not worried for themselves, unlike the woken Democrats who can only think of themselves as they plot against those they're supposed to serve. I also wondered why Hillary Clinton could have such a hardened heart that she stole money from her charity fund to add to her own already growing fortune. Meanwhile, there she is, supposedly helping with the donations of generous donors, but then you see the poor standing at the shores of their poverty, in Haiti, I think. Above the frothing waves, they protest with signs that say, "Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, where's our money?" as they starve on the island. What did you do with our money? We're starving, dirt poor. Why have you kept our money? Why do you only help the few who already have food, shelter, and clothing? If these hard-hearted politicians could spend charity money meant for the dirt poor, I can see how they sentence my grandchildren to poverty, slavery, religious persecution, racial discrimination, and the drudgery of a plain poor life with no future. They have no mercy. Barack Obama, Michelle Obama. Actually, I don't know if she's Michelle or Michael. Chelsea must have been born with a heart also. Without a heart also. I could say Chelsea must have been born at minus 100 degrees also. They put her in charge of the funds donated by willing souls to the poor in Haiti. She spends $500,000 of the food and shelter of the poor on her wedding reception. How can hearts be so hardened? Only God can rescue us from these tyrants. Satan will do everything he can to put a witch in the White House. War? It's always with us. We are constantly going after our desires, and depending on how hard we fight, we attain or we fail. Talent, wit, experience, special knowledge, techniques for outwitting our opponents. Think 10 moves ahead at all times. Sacrifice your queen to gain position. Don't forget about any pieces you haven't taken into consideration that might come up and bite you in the back. Sometimes luck can treat you better than skill. You don't have skill, then luck rarely comes. Don't have luck, then skill will only get you so far. However, is there any luck since a higher power controls your fate? With him, which is God, we need to be one. In a way, our situation with this woken crowd is the same as our situation with Jesus. The Lord sends us types of himself so that he can use others to save us. It is really him working within them, him working within you to help others if you do the right thing. Surrounded by a sinful world, we constantly need saving. The Lord sent Donald J. Trump to help us out of this jam so our grandchildren can know what they deserve. The taste of freedom and fresh life to live, the life we want to live. Donald J. Trump is a type of Christ. God likes to work through the ones he loves, who prove to him to be like David, a man or a woman after his own heart. Our Lord raises up heroes to save us. Just as he raised up Donald Trump, so he raised up Cyrus to save the Jews and help them escape the burden of slavery and to help them rebuild the land God gave them. Actually, it goes deeper than just that he raised Cyrus up, called him out by name over 100 years before he was born. God saw Cyrus from the beginning of time. He formed Cyrus in his mother's womb. President number 45 is compared to both David and Cyrus in prophecy. Cyrus, it was predicted, just as it was with Trump ahead of time, that by name that he would come and save the people of Israel. In fact, Isaiah 45 is the verse that talks about Cyrus. And of course, we know that President Trump is number 45 president of the United States. God saw Cyrus from the beginning of time. Trump was prophesied that he would be president and save us from socialism as far back as 2007, I think. Before that, but the main prophecy started around 2006 or 2007 by a prophet named Kim Clement. And then another prophet, Mark Taylor, and there are other prophets too. God saw Cyrus from the beginning of time. He formed Cyrus in his mother's womb. He formed him and worked in him the qualities of a good king. He made him strong and gave him the ability to overcome Israel's enemies. God gave Cyrus compassion so that he wept at hearing the story of the decline of Israel, the damages done to their cities and those left behind to live amongst the ruins. So Cyrus helped the Jews rebuild, even though he was not a religious king that I know of. Donald J. Trump was not a god, of course, but he was a type of Christ, as David was, and Moses, and several others. He was also summoned from time to save God's children. God raised up Netanyahu to govern Israel for a time. And we need to pray that Netanyahu stays in office and it isn't given to that left-wing guy. Donald J. Trump has a special task to perform. Not unlike Abraham Lincoln, raised up from the beginnings of eternity to set the captives free and make things right, to save his country from being sectioned apart. God placed us here to be a friend to Israel, a whole world, a force of billions against one tiny stretch of land that for spiritual reasons hatred wants to destroy. God's people are as we are, the innocent in a strange and savage land. God has raised Trump up to become a trumpet. This trumpet, says God's prophet, shall sound out through the land and save America from its enemies. Simultaneously, he will save Israel from those around it that surround it. This Trump, God told us through his prophet, is a genius. They will say, how will you take on this giant of socialism? Trump will take a simple stone and hold it up. They will laugh at him, but those who have rejected him will be shocked at how he takes down the giant. It's a wonderful plan, God tells us, one that could only have come from me. God vowed that he will fool the people, and he has for several months. He explains that there is a veil placed over this nation, and he put it there. He's very adamant about it. He says, there's a veil been placed over this nation, and I put it there, so that my people would grow, because you grow in darkness. And we have been stretched. God's prophets and God's people have been stretched through all this, waiting for him to work, having people come against us and call the prophets liars and say it's not going to work. God vowed that he would fool the people, and he has. He explained that there would be a veil placed over this nation, and he put it there. He put the veil there so his people could grow in faith. In darkness, we wait for the battle to break in our favor as socialism closes in around our throats. Do not think it strange when I take you through tunnels of darkness. It is there that you can shine out brightly and draw others to me. There are many stars shining all the time, but in the daytime, how many can you see? You know, we are constantly grabbing, beating, and choking at each other. Why do we always seem to take sides against each other is a mystery. There always seems to be the good-hearted folks and this hard, grubby monsters. I think it's been that way since the beginning of time. Satan rebelled against God. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to cut it loose. Now, if anybody has any ideas about how long these should be, please leave a note for me, and I'll take that into consideration. I really don't know how long is too long and how short is too short. So I'm going to cut that out, and I'm going to go to the program, which is the Novel Factory, and I'm going to put that, boy, the exposition a lot of times will go in the second act. I'll have to make a new scene, and I will make it a tale, which is a tale is what they're named for a sequel, and the title will be Exposition on How God Works with Prophets and Cyrus and Trump. All right. And I think I'm going to put that in the first draft also. I could put it in the notes, but I'll put it in the first draft. I can always change it later if I have to. And I'm going to save it. Okay. Now I'm going to save it here immediately because if something happens, I don't want to lose that. And it will happen if I don't. Okay, and I'll have to move it now because it always ends up at the top. I'm going to try to put it in, what do we got here? Brainstorm session, chapter 3, introduction to the team. I think I'll put it here before chapter 3. Okay, I don't know why that was that way. Oh, because it's an instant. Now I'm going to save it once again. Once these things get in there, it's hard to get them back out. All right, I'm going to stop there for now, and I'm going to go make me another one. And please like or subscribe or whatever, share. Thank you, and have